Greetings everyone. Welcome again to another Ubuntu, a global dialogue with Africa. I'm very excited about this topic. It relates to development and African advancement. But before we get started, as usual, we're going to welcome our dear sister Sipokazi Kwakweni to lead us in an opening meditative session. Sipokazi.
Thank you very much, Kalu. A very good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sipokazi Kwakweni. As Kalu has said, I am from Cape Town, South Africa, and it is a great pleasure and honor to be a part of this dialogue. And today I stand here representing my clan. I stand here representing my ancestors, O Dlamini, O Chamakas Jadu, O Fakate, O Mba Inoboya, O Saluti, Ondlebentle Zombini, Izizi Elimnyama Nenkomo Zalo. And I am starting this dialogue with an African prayer, an ancestor's prayer. And I'm going to invite you just to gently close your eyes or soften your gaze, whatever you choose for yourself, to tune into this moment, to tune into this dialogue. Our great Africa, our great African parents, we humbly offer our gratitude for the many blessings you have given. We extend our love to your state of being, for the suffering that you have endured, so that we may not suffer so. Mothers of our African nation, fathers of our African selves, we invoke you to further lead and guide us to a higher understanding of our true greatness. I think that's a very powerful line, and I'd like to repeat that. Fathers of our African selves, we invoke you to further lead and guide us to a higher understanding of our true greatness and a more encompassing dedication of love for Ubuntu. Parents of all African children, guide us towards greater unity. Guide us in a stronger African value system and lead us into the zenith of respect and love for our people through education and the family communal structure. We commit to the heritage and the legacy that you have left us to uphold and sustain our rightful status on this earth, and to continue the struggle for the total mental and physical liberation of all African people. Africa, now is your time. Bamaku. I thought it was actually quite fitting, especially with this topic when we're talking about quantum physics, quantum computers, all of these new trends. And I mean, it really means that Africa really now is our time. Thank you very much, Kalu. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
All right. Thank you, Sipokazi. All right, very quickly, let me go through a brief bio of our guest. We have a beloved guest today, Professor Schmidt Chintu. He is the CEO of Cyber Academy in Zambia. He is the British Computer Society representative for Southern and Eastern Africa. He's also a director at the Institute for the Management and of Information Systems. Now, he has several accolades, and he earned a distinction, or what you may call a AAA in mathematics, physics, and chemistry from the University of Cambridge. He also was awarded the British Computer Society Professional Fellowship on the basis of his achievements of distinction in the career of computing. And let's see, he also earned honors in computing and mathematical sciences, what you may call first division or equivalent to a 4.0 in America from the University of Greenwich. and earned his MPhil and PhD in computing and mathematical sciences from the University of Greenwich. Professor Schmidt Chintu, your accolades is a long list. Welcome.
Thank you, Kalu. And good to join you. And thank you, Africa. Happy to motivate in the realm of quantum computing and artificial intelligence, as driven initially by quantum physics or quantum mechanics, whose developments began in the 1920s when Bohm and began working on quantization of physics, dealing with the smallest units that are used to classify elements of existence, such as the nucleus and even the smaller quantities. So quantum physics is about the smallest units that we can delve into in science. Quantum computing picks on from the concepts of quantum physics, such as entanglement, to thrive in delivering very high speed or very fast performing computers and high storage computers compared to the classical computer, because the qubit or unit of storage, which is the quantum bit, means that you can store so much more data on it compared to the units of classic computing known as bits. So that's what it is.
You are loaded. I haven't even asked a question, and you've delved right into sharing your wealth of knowledge. What I gleaned from what you said is it has amazing capacity for storage. That's something yes. I gleaned from that.
And speed. Sure.
Yes. Yeah. So let me ask you this: what is the current state of advanced computing in Africa?
All right. In Africa, we are lagging behind, and the best approach would be actually to utilize the developments of artificial intelligence, because there's a lot of freeware and certifications that can get many young Africans participating in the development of smaller AI applications. And it's inexpensive compared to delving straight into quantum computing. So it would be better for young people to start from the paradigm of artificial intelligence. And we can create here the equivalents of Bangalore or the Silicon Valley without much costs. All we need is to use Python, which is a free programming paradigm, R, a free programming paradigm, SQL, a free programming paradigm. And because education may be expensive, candidates do not need to have degrees necessarily. I'm not saying they should never, they can, but they can start being very useful even after obtaining certifications in a couple of months. For example, you mentioned my AAA from Cambridge. That was A level. That wasn't yet the degree. My degrees were from Greenwich. So it was the A level, which is entry. If you give entry level certifications to candidates to participate in developments, these entry level qualifications in AI can be in neural computing, can be in machine learning and deep learning. These are types of AI, not stages, not evolutions of AI, but types of AI. You can have very intelligent applications and websites being developed, and the young people can be self-employed in developing these ones for organizations. From there on, because capital can grow, right? There's the need for a system which can reinvest, because AI can contribute to economic growth. Remember, that it's the countries that are going to lead in AI and quantum computing that are going to be the leaders of the world. It will not be the countries that are leading in nuclear bombs and guns anymore. And therefore, there's an opportunity for countries that didn't perform so well in guns to outperform countries that perform, because the race is different. The race now is on intelligence. And this is why you see China investing more. China may feel they may never catch up with the US in terms of military power, but they know that they can catch up faster on AI. And the country that is going to lead in AI is going to lead the world. And if Africa can join this race, and getting into AI is inexpensive initially. Of course, there are grades of AI, but at least the simplest AI, we can go into those. Then there will be capital retained there. We can invest into more advanced AI, more capital retained, and we can begin to invest into quantum computing, which needs more powerful equipment. Yes.
No, that is amazing. I am fired up hearing you say that the future is in intelligence, artificial intelligence. Countries who invest in intelligence, in artificial intelligence, are going to be on the top in the future, not those who are making bombs and so on and so forth. That is very powerful. I'm going to invite my colleague here, Dr. Charles Mwizu, who is our Oga of Engineering, to come in and maybe ask you a couple of questions as well. Dr. Charles Mwizu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. Professor Chintu, I just have a quick question. I know you said something very interesting, that it is the country that invests in artificial intelligence that will top the race. This is a follow-up question to what Professor Carlo asked earlier. Do we really need AI as much more intelligent than human being? Like, there are some people saying we shouldn't go to the extent of having technological tools or computer that are much smarter than people. Like, what is your take on this? Should we invest more in this technology that are very smart than us? What's your take?
All right, I hear you. Now, the human spirit is such that it develops better and faster when it is challenged. From the early days of humanity, when lions and tigers were stronger and ran faster than us, the human spirit developed fire, protective housing to keep away from these predators. And the human spirit still outsmarted the predators, sometimes in hunting, and were able to feed themselves on protein, even when the predators were hunting for the same. And our ancestors in Africa survived that. And it is from Africa that humanity survived and evolved and went to other parts of the world. So we still have that spirit. We need to be challenged in order to get even smarter. For example, the current blockchain system that we use can secure us in such a way that a classical computer may not be able to hack into, all right, data that is protected by the current blockchain system that uses prime factors. All right, to deduce the prime, to deduce the private key of the actor based on the prime factors of the derived on the public key, in the public key private key encryption. However, as much as that sounds very, very viable in securing us, and the classical computer would take 2,000 years to break it. One tested on about 200 digits. So 309 digits were then proposed to make it even harder. But for the quantum computers, because they're going to run several thousand cycles better than a classic computer, they could actually break through our current blockchain mechanism of prime number factors. So we have to then invoke other methods of security that are based on quantum security itself, such as ultra-secure quantum cryptography, which would match the security needs punch for punch in an era when the criminals may be using a quantum algorithm to outsmart an organization's assets, computerized assets. So we cannot lag behind and say, therefore, we're going to stay back and not invest in the AI, because we need AI to protect us further from future AI developments. And remember, just like guns and bombs meant that a country could outpower and outsmart another, AI will mean that if you say, oh, in Africa, we don't need this, we're going to sit back, it means that others are going to really go smart out and will be able to drain your banks. They will not, okay, all the worries we have about people getting Africa's mineral assets. This time, they will not even have to do it that way. They can simply empty your coffers from their comforts in hotels in the West or in the East or wherever. So in order to be an active participant and equal to the measure, Africa would need to invest in AI. The world actually would need to be very busy with AI and be a part of activities that are going on and not remain behind. So it's very important. All the fears that we have about AI taking over and beginning to kill human beings are unfounded. In fact, there will be evolution of AI. Of course, whenever something good is being developed, there will be rogue forces that are using the same power to develop rogue technologies or rogue tools. But you can never sit back. The human spirit needs to be invoked to keep advancing. Just like from the time when we ran away from lions and leopards, we have to remain on guard and keep improving human life.
Thank you very much, Professor Chimte. So in a nutshell, you're saying advanced computing, AI is necessary, is needful, right, Prof?
Yes, it is. It is. We have to, because it's going to improve a lot of things. It's going to eliminate a number of cancers. Diagnosis will be done early with precision, and we will not be needing much of the painful operations to get rid of problems. So when you look at the usefulness and the benefits, they outweigh the fears, some of them unfounded, that go on, especially in what I would call conspiracy theories on AI.
So do you think African nations, because some proponents are also of the opinion that what we need is, we've learned how to hunt lions. Rather, even when we get these lions or these cows, we don't know how to process them, that we do not need advanced tech, but rather we need basic technology like solving our water sanitation system, or how to process meat better, or stuff like that, that our problems in Africa are still
immediate problems.
The basic, that why are we going that advanced? What's your take on this? Do you think we should concentrate on solving malaria? We don't even have a vaccine for malaria. Like, why are we interested in data when we still have issues? Child mortality is still very high.
Okay, I hear you. I don't think every nation must walk through this cycle that every other nation went through. I don't think we have to go to the medieval period of Europe, cross all the lakes and bridges that they crossed before getting to AI and quantum computing. I don't think we have to be thrown back to that moment. We have to seize what is happening, because you have to look at the Greeks. The Greeks were way ahead of, when the United States only had hunter-gatherers, the Greeks philosophers understood the constellation of the universe before the British did. When the British were still barbarians, the Greeks were doing that. But in the fullness of time, the other parts of the world had to inherit what the Greeks had achieved in order to muscle themselves to where they are today. China, I know, was once advanced and then it collapsed. And it's back again as a world leader, promising to be a world leader. They haven't had to say, you know what, we're not going to do artificial intelligence the British or the American way. You know, they didn't say, wow, Tim Berners-Lee has developed the www web. Okay, we're going to oppose that because it's been developed by a British scientist. We're going to develop our own equivalent. They didn't say that. They are on the same internet that was developed partly by the Department of Defense in the United States in terms of TCP/IP and in terms of the web as developed by Tim Berners-Lee when he began that development at CERN Laboratory after he graduated physics in Oxford. Again, here is a parallel. Tim Berners-Lee graduated physics before making a very powerful contribution to computer science. That is because there's a thin line between what is physics, computer science, mathematics, and how it goes into quantum computing and AI. These are STEM, their sciences very related, and researchers get to meet and work around multidisciplinary way, and that's how it is. So that's what we see, is that we can start from where we are. Look at South Korea and North Korea. They're the same people, but because one country decided to use a cake methodology to things, they've remained behind. Another country simply adopted, I know some Pan-Africanists may not like this, but you know what, we must weigh everything and see what is most beneficial to Africa. If something works, do not throw it. Something is straight, do not bend it because it's already straight. South Korea adopted a mature methodology of working that was developed from the West, and so did Japan. And China has done that, and they are moving forward. Africa needs to jump in, parts of India as well, because there are two worlds in India. One part of the Indian world has adopted technology, and in Bangalore, they're producing real efficient, cost-effective, smart technologies, and companies from Seattle have invested there because labor is cheap, and there are a lot of smart people growing up in there, adding value to the Silicon Valley. Africa needs to have the equivalence of Silicon Valleys. There are a lot of smart people. We need to encourage them to like development, to like mathematics. We need to change our teachers. We have to start from there and join this race and be part of the world. Malaria will go away automatically, actually, because these very solutions are going to work on malaria.
Wow, that's powerful. You know, Professor Chintu, I have to say, I really like your positive attitude and your hopefulness about Africa. And you are very open, and you have an expansive approach when it comes to learning. You believe we can do it. And I think that is the mindset we need to step forward in Africa. Let's build on what's already out there and yes, charge forward. That is what you are saying today.
Yes, it can be done. In Greenwich, I led a team in the University of Greenwich in the research of self-driving cars, smart routing. I was doing it. I was the leader. It can be done. Yeah. Even I didn't have to be in Greenwich to be very successful. I need to identify people back here at home in Africa who believe, and then the number of smart mathematicians, right, computer programmers, physics enthusiasts that I have dealt with that simply need the right platform. The problem with Africa is not the intelligence. Do not even listen to any speculation that African intelligence will be lower. Not at all. This is why when you test this on the paradigm of young Africans, Black candidates that study in Europe or the US, you find that they do just so well and are impressive. The problem with Africa is on policy, priorities, and culture. Yeah, and I'm not saying the entire culture of Africa is terrible. No, there's a lot of good things that give us very good manners, make us walk proud as Africans, but there are also some very intimidating approaches, and the politicians have taken advantage of that, and they prioritize different things. We can see that if you change the methodology, take Korea, I always take Korea to be one country. Just look at what has happened, how far apart the two Koreas are. And that tells you something Africa did wrong at a certain time. If they had done, because for example, the GDPs of South Korea and Northern Rhodesia, which is now Zambia, my country, were at par at the time Rhodesia became Zambia, or the other part of Rhodesia became Zimbabwe. But look at the gap now. And it's the same story for Ghana. They pick the same parameters to measure where they are and where they should have been. And that's what it is. And technology might be actually is the path that could take us on a fast track to the bus we missed, so that we can move along with the rest of the world.
Wow. This is Ubuntu, a global dialogue with Africa. And with us is Professor Schmidt Chintu, our dearly beloved brother from Zambia. He's doing an amazing work. Connect with us at osiriuniversity.org. And if you want us to put in touch with Professor Schmidt Chintu, let us know so we can put you in touch with this amazing brother who is doing some fine work in Africa as a whole, in Zambia in particular. We need to get on his bandwagon because he has the mindset to lead us ahead. There are a flood of questions in the chat room, and I'm going to start asking some of those questions. My colleague here, Wiz, is also going to be asking a few of those questions. But before we turn to those questions, let me just ask one more question, just sort of help us set the baseline about what we are talking about. So what is artificial intelligence? What are the types of artificial intelligence? Can you shed some light on the origins of artificial intelligence, if you may? And after that, we'll go ahead and ask some of the audience questions. Thank you, sir.
Right. Yes. So about the origins of artificial intelligence, first of all, artificial intelligence is an approach to deliver human-like intelligence in machines in order to bring about efficiencies and high productivity and general high standard of living and of life. As we can see, AI can be used in medical care, can be used in industry to reduce industrial accidents and increase the amounts of units that are produced in the industry through these machines that may learn what the human beings ought to do and then replicate this. The origins, there's so much debate. Other thinkers think it could have originated from Babbage, the 1800s. Babbage was a British mathematician, but it is more commonly agreed that AI was born out of Alan Turing's work. Now, for Alan Turing is a mathematician, and he's also said to be the father of modern computer science and artificial intelligence. So because computer science and mathematics started off as one area of study, the department I started my PhD from is the Department of Computing and Mathematical Sciences. It's an integrated, so this was more like a double major, keeping to those traditions. So Alan Turing, this is the gentleman that deciphered the Nazis' communication system and is credited for ending the Second World War. Others will argue, and sometimes when physicists and mathematicians, though they belong together, are throwing a jibe at each other, the physicists will say, we created the atomic bomb that ended the World War and dropped it on Hiroshima. The mathematicians will say, no. The Second World War actually ended a little earlier than that because Alan Turing deciphered the communication system. So Alan Turing, the Alan Turing Award for computer scientists is the equivalent of the Nobel Prize in physics, or the Field Prize in mathematics. In computer science is known as the Alan Turing Award. So Alan Turing began because the deciphering that the Alan Turing machine, that was a form of artificial intelligence system. But over the years, artificial intelligence evolved from simple artificial intelligence to advanced general intelligence and to ultra smart intelligence, which is being developed and is envisaged to be the big thing for the 2050s. That's the path that artificial intelligence, because that last version is artificial super intelligence. The middle part is artificial general intelligence, and the earliest versions were artificial narrow intelligence. But we can argue that Alan Turing's machine had the capabilities of all these. That means it was several years ahead, like 100 years ahead, because we expect systems that will be as smart as Alan Turing machines to only start emerging in multiples right now. So the difference is in the depth of what these systems can do. Like the narrow artificial intelligence systems are only trained to answer a specific problem, or repetitive, like loading bottles. Okay, so it's narrow. Yeah, they don't let. Yeah, and then the next generation, which is the general intelligence, the artificial general intelligence, these ones can do multiple tasks. They can even compare a decision they made yesterday to today and other parameters, and maybe make a new decision. And these are the common ones, even when we look at facial recognition used by Google, the Google brain, developed by Andrew and team. It belongs to the second generation of AI, much of what we're seeing. The third generation is the one now that is envisaged to overtake our intelligence. But arguably, others can say some of the third generation began existing as far back as 1985, when the Deep Blue computer defeated the grandmaster in a chess game. Okay. So all of that becomes apparent. Then we would say that we are now in the super intelligence, artificial AI. Now, to AI, we do hear of other names like machine learning, and people think, is machine learning an alternative to AI? No, AI is the broader name. Machine learning is the bigger subset of AI. And then there's another smarter part of machine learning called deep learning, because deep learning means that it has got higher automation than general machine learning. It means there's less human intervention. The instruction set is less. Once you set off, it continues to think for itself. And they mimic the neural system of the human or animal system. That's why we may call them artificial neural networks, which form part of the deep learning system. So that is where we are. Yes, the systems will get smarter than us. The fear is that they'll probably pick guns and eliminate us and take over the world.
Prof, I actually have a question from one of our audience, and
Sure.
It's just in the line of what you're currently answering. So I'm just going to read verbatim.
Sure.
So the person asked, he said, if these AI systems are developed by human beings, what logic is there to make them smarter than their creator? Should humans be assumed less important than AI technology? So that's
right. Yeah, for example, it did happen. We did well. I was a teenager when Deep Blue defeated the grandmaster. I was a teenager, and it happened. The fellow was working everybody out of the chessboard until he came across the Deep Blue computer. He's defeated. That's so many years ago. So what happens is that because as humans, yes, we are the custodian of the technology we create, but we have what you'd call as maybe some resistance or some redundancy. You know, when you're using equipment like routers, if they're underperforming maybe because of this resistance, which reduces the throughput. That could be happening. Some redundancy, it causes some redundancy. That means it's the equivalent of lost time of processing. All right. From the expected computed time or computed effort or computed throughput, you end up with a lesser throughput because somewhere along the way, you have had some redundancy, like some time, a certain amount of time when you're not processing. This comes from such things as fatigue, no matter how smart you are. Because a human, you may suffer fatigue. Fatigue causes redundancy, and there's time when you go to bed to sleep, so you're no longer learning during the time you're sleeping. So if you develop an application or system of intelligence that keeps learning while you're asleep and keeps piling knowledge and repeating the processes while you're asleep, and it doesn't complain, doesn't get fatigued, it's not bothered, doesn't have a girlfriend to waste time on, in terms of thinking, or doesn't have a boyfriend, it's not fired up by emotions, there's no loss, there's no redundancy. It is on that score, then, that the artificial intelligence system would outpace a human. Because even in the game, the Deep Blue game, it was about the human being's graph beginning to fall as the game progressed. Because the person was getting fatigued.
So are you saying that thank you, Professor. Are you saying that the creator, we're not going to have control of these systems in the future?
No. I did not say we're not going to have. There will be a portal where you can go back to control and put a stop to things. But while it is operating normally, you'll be happy that it is outdoing you. But because you're the human being and you can walk to the switch and say, okay, enough is enough, you can call the shots, you still have some control. It is the repetitive process and the things that can be learned where it will get smarter than us. But in terms of us getting it on and getting it out of the assembly line, I think we still retain control for that. Yeah, and we'll probably build other artificial intelligence agents that control the others. Yes. All right, on our behalf. There are a lot of other things that operate on that scale even today.
Thank you so much, Professor Chintu. We have a lot of questions here, so I'm just going to run through another one. The question says, artificial intelligence is very key to growth of any country. Who is willing on trading? But how can we override the instances that may arise as a result of cyber attack, crimes, and all that? So I think the person is just trying to ask about how can we control cyber attack coming as a result of advanced computing, big data, artificial intelligence.
Yes. So what is going to happen, and this has happened throughout human history. When guns were created, others used them for crime, but also security units and SWAT teams got better guns to fight criminals. Unfortunately, we fight fire with fire as human beings, and that's not going to be any different as technology evolves. So there's going to be quantum brute force cyber attacks. That means the brute force attack that we know today is going to be powered up by quantum brute force, which means it's going to become more brutal. It's going to be able to actually get to data that it wasn't going to get to without it becoming quantum integrated. However, such problems just like hand and glove. Yeah, if such problems are the hand, they'll have to be solved by a glove that fits the bill. They have to be, they have to fit the shoe. So we need to develop quantum technologies, and already there's ultra quantum cryptography that is being developed to counter such, and this too will continue evolving. We can't stop, we can't pause these developments. It's part of humanity. The problems that arise humanity, okay, human psychology have to be solved by evolving problems. Human beings are such that for any situation they are put in, they develop the capacity to confront those problems. If you don't bring those problems, the humans will not get stronger to confront those problems. So we cannot sit back and say, therefore, we're not going to be discovering new things because we don't want to bring new problems. That is not the human spirit in which we should exist. So we must continue to evolve and counter the problems that arise as we evolve. Generally, what we will see is that lifestyles improve. The West, if you look at Denmark, where they are today, and where they were when they had the Vikings emanating out of there, it's a different place altogether. It's the place with some of the least crime rates in the world. It's so silent, you can't know that the Vikings who terrorized the Western world came from there. Why? Because that society kept evolving and making itself better. So we can hope that we can actually keep getting better, and crime rates, even if crime can never be eliminated, can be reduced significantly because we have camera facial recognition. So now, even if terrorists are wearing masks, the AI, especially using quantum computing as well, we shouldn't ignore quantum computing because it's going to increase the capacity of what we can store and the speed and sets of iterations that we can actually run. It's going to be integrated. We're integrating quantum computing with artificial intelligence in what is known as inspired, quantum-inspired AI. So bringing a synergy of computing prowess and mathematics and physics in order to better the world, in order to perform smarter facial recognition through iterations. There has been a problem of late on facial recognition, and that this system was only working so well for white faces. So further iterations are improving this so that it works better for all color shades, and so that AI is ethical and does not discriminate. Ethics must accompany all activities that are going on the continuum of technological evolution.
Very good.
Can't
very good.
Sure.
Let me ask a question from Anonymous on that note. When discussing ethics and AI, are there global agreements or guidelines that ensure AI developers use this technology for the common good? And I'll go ahead and also pose another question from Frank, and that is, how can Africa incorporate AI to the medical field at early stage? Over to you, sir.
Sure. All right. Yes, actually, there's several ethical codes of conduct that are being developed, and this is why you have seen of late that even the Congress in the US have summoned a Facebook proprietor or CEO and other such technological gurus. Each time there's been a feeling that the ethics and privacy of people have been breached. There have been privacy laws already in existence, and the AI rules on ethics are simply enhancing the existing laws on privacy and confidentiality, as well as rules or laws against racial discrimination. Though they may not be very firm because we're entering an area that is new, So some of them are being improved only now as problems arise. And that happens with every emerging technology. You may find that there isn't enough existing platform, though there is some. So the rules that are there, even the European Union has some. All of these organizations, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, have had to face up either to the British Parliament, to the European Union. But because Africa has lagged behind, it's only been started instituting some cyber rules now, though it's been feared in some cases in Africa that some of the motivation has been political without really much care on the citizens that these rules are intended to protect. So this is an evolving area, and we are rewriting a number of things as the technology evolves, because we have what we call zero-day attacks. What I mean here is when you face a problem that has never occurred because it's never been documented, but technology opens up this possibility of the problem, you get a zero-day attack. So you must then produce a patch. Technologically, you produce a patch, and by law, you must amend the laws from as a going concern from the learning that occurs.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you for all the answer. I have some question, follow-up question. This one is from another participant. Who's it? He asked, he or she asked, thank you, Prof. I am happy that you have identified that the problem of Africa is not intelligence. We have smart and intelligent people. We have many Africans abroad doing great things. My problem is, how can the young Africa navigate through the policy which are obviously are still in the 18th centuries to compete favorably in African soil? Follow up to that question is a question asked by Julius. He or she asked that how can we make artificial intelligence work in African environments? So I think the same kind of question, like how can we make it work in Africa? Do we have the resources, the power, the human capacity to make this work in Africa?
Okay, those are two questions. I'll begin with the first one and then do the second one from Juliet. The first one has to do with policy, and this one on policy will not only be driven by engineers, computer scientists, mathematicians. It will not be driven by the STEM segment of the African population, which itself still needs to grow a lot. But because intelligence, artificial intelligence, or even quantum computing, nest on several activities that have to do with natural business and not always with engineering organizations, means everybody is affected. Therefore, we need activists to get involved in turning the page. We need policymakers. We need a generation of new politicians that understand where we are today and must change the way the game is played. So we need the media to broadcast this across Africa, to increase awareness of the importance of being in the technological lead. We need to show, for example, countries like South Korea, India, and Brazil of late, to showcase those ones, because they belong to the group Africa has belonged to in a very long time, the third world group. Of course, South Korea came out of the group much earlier. They took the route of the tiger economies that grew significantly after 1960. But we can be there. We can do that. They did the tiger paradigm shift. What would we call it in Africa? Perhaps lion paradigm shift. Yeah, because the in Asia, they call it tiger because that's the key predator in that zone. They call it the lion revolution. Okay, we can even give, or even elephant revolution. We can give it an African name. Yeah. And it can take us through something that makes us identify and supported by not only the technological group, but politicians, civil society, other activists. Yeah, to lead and change the culture. And not only driven by Africans that are in here, but synergize with, if you look at Asia, they had to synergize with Western corporations. Japan did a lot of that. And after technological transfer was successful, or they reached the technological transfer equilibrium, they then could create their own brands, whether it's vehicles, Toyota, so forth, whether it's computers, Toshiba, so forth. We need to get there. We need to synergize with existing forces that have advanced in technology already and be ahead and move ahead, surge ahead in the race. That is necessary.
That is very good.
Yes.
Let me.
Yeah, sorry, a short one.
Go ahead, Prof. Go ahead. Yes.
Said, does Africa have the technological prowess or infrastructure to participate effectively in AI? All what's required is motivation. Look at the mobile network penetration, how it successfully happened in Africa. All right, and so many millions of people now have a cell phone. More than every other person has a cell phone. Maybe we are on 80% more, I think, in terms of mobile phone penetration. Why? Because people understood this was a necessity that they used for transaction of monies. They do that. In Zambia, we have Airtel Money, MTN Money, and in Zimbabwe, we have Eco Cash, all right? And people depend on this so much, more than they depend on the traditional commercial banks. So necessity has led to adoption. So if we have infrastructure that is supporting these mobile networks so much, the answer is yes, then we have the infrastructure, because much of it is the same infrastructure on which we can build our AI applications. So there's dependency. One technology becomes a platform for another technology to bounce on or to trample in.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Prof, thank you so much. I have to jump in right here because I see a lot of yearning on the platform for a revival in the area of computer science and ICT in Africa. And I want to say to those who are yearning, go to osiriuniversity.org and click on Teach for Africa. osiriuniversity.org, click on Teach for Africa, and you can enroll to join the community of computer scientists. We have a computer science Mulukongo at Osiri University. Also, we would like to connect you with to Professor Schmidt Chintu, because he also has some amazing work going on in Africa. If you want us to connect you to him directly, we are happy to do so as well. He is a very fine brother doing some great work on the continent. Let's go ahead and take two more questions, please. Dr. Wizu, take two questions together so we can wrap up. We are very short on time here.
Yeah.
Professor, we may have to invite you back. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So the first question, I think Professor Chintu already kind of answered that. Like, do we have the infrastructure to support the adoption of AI? And from Professor Chintu, yes, we do. We can build on what we have already, the existing thing. That's correct, right, Prof?
Yes, yes, yes.
And so I can just go directly to the second question. He or she, they ask that, excellent insight, Prof. Thank you very much. How do you envisage AI leading in the area of green revolution in Africa? Sure. So I mean, he's talking, the person is talking about agriculture. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Agriculture, that's a very important area where a lot of AI and robotics are being envisioned or envisaged for. AI through pattern recognition, deep learning, that part. Remember when I talked about the types? Yes, so the deep learning part is very smart in pattern recognition and can tell even from the leaves when they're being infected long before. And by the way, it's so sensitive that any change in the plant, it can raise that alarm so that the farmers can react in earnest to mitigate problems. Okay, that is on the plants. And then on the grains, the seed types themselves, in developing or re-engineering, okay, seeds that are resistant to disease. I know on this issue of re-engineering is a very sensitive area because even prior to AI, there's been genetic modification, but it doesn't, which has been greatly opposed in Africa by some scholars. However, AI can reproduce the correct sequencing of the original seed without really, this is the seed that people trust. It can be regenerated without degenerating the quality. All right, so that this is something slightly different from genetically modified. Even though for genetically modified, they too can be sequenced with artificial intelligence, but equally so can be the original seed. Yeah. So, and if you want to maintain the original seed and make it even stronger, or simply keep it as it is, and increase food security by regenerating it so it's produced in great numbers, that consistency can be maintained as long as participants agree it is ethical and can be supported. Yeah, and defense of crops through digital imaging, which is very, very important, a very, very important part of AI. Again, this is using largely artificial neural networks and deep learning in order to understand the plant's health and keep them in what amount of water or amount of sunlight, a particular time continuum. So as well as equipment, robotics for irrigation, when they should water the plants, how much water they should release. All this can be controlled to optimum levels by artificial intelligence.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And that is our time here. And we'd like to end on time at Ubuntu, a global dialogue with Africa. A big thanks to Janisha Francis for holding it down in the chat room and engaging our audience members. A big thanks to my colleague, Dr. Charles Mwizu, for stepping up and anchoring this session with me. And of course, big thanks to our guest, our honorable guest, Professor Chintu Schmidt. You are amazing. You are a fine brother. You are doing great work. We are proud of you. We love you. We encourage you. We want you to continue to do what you are doing. And a big shout out to all our guests who tuned in to learn from our amazing guest today. I want to say Ubuntu. Ubuntu.
Sure. Yes.
Ubuntu. Okay.